My floral arrangement this week. Isn't that pretty?
Ooh, absolutely.
I have a bunch of them. I have a bunch of them, like, they're all, like, around me. Aren't they pretty?
Oh, that's beautiful. Yes.
Yeah, we're live right now talking, but I will tell you that my assistant, Mariana, who's an amazing executive and personal assistant, is also a farmer, organic farmer. And they make me, as part of their job, like 3 bouquets of their organic flowers that are so high vibe, like ultimate high vibe,
Yay.
right from these gardens in Berkeley, California. And it just brightens my world having fresh flowers in my view.
Yes, my neighbor just asked me for a vase so she could refill my.
Ooh, nice. Well, hi everyone. Welcome. Yes, my name is Kiki Lovelace. Hi everyone. I'm so glad you're here watching live or watching on the replay. I can see people climbing in. And I am a serial entrepreneur, just like my guest, Nicole Renee Matthews. I am the owner of Interstellar Pilates and Yoga Studio here in Berkeley, California. And I'm also an embodied leadership and success mentor to my 6- and 7-figure plus business owner and CEO clients, just like Nicole. And today, yes, I want to introduce to you all, oh my gosh, just like one of my soul family clients, dear ones. We have like such an amazing connection. This is Nicole Renee Matthews. And Nicole, hi.
Hello.
Welcome. I wrote out a little bio of yours. It's not really your bio, but it's just like an introduction. May I read it to you, Nicole?
Please, let's hear it.
Okay. Nicole Renee Matthews is a mom, small business owner, new earth teacher, and paradigm shifter, a natural born leader and visionary with big ideas, lots of ideas all day long, actually. And a serial entrepreneur with 3 businesses, actually, located in Litchfield, Connecticut. She's also a certified coach from the Institute of Integrative Nutritional Health, a yoga teacher, and a very experienced herbalist. And I would call you a wisdom keeper of what it is to be in alignment with the earth's rhythms and with our own nature. Welcome, Nicole.
Just resting into that. It feels so good. Yes, especially when you count my businesses for me, because sometimes I forget 1 or 2.
I knew you were going to forget. I wanted to remind you, you have 3 businesses. Yes.
Yes, they all sort of they blend together in the most lovely way.
Yes, they do. They do, actually. Yeah. So why don't we actually start there? Can you tell, like, I know you could probably spend an hour telling us, but can you tell us in like 1 or 2 sentences each, what are your 3 businesses?
Yes. So I was fortunate enough to start prenatal yoga at Shireen Yoga Studio and then take over that business a few years after I started going as a student. And I founded Our Conscious Agency, which is an LLC to provide somatic and yoga classes to residential programs where people are living and in deep need of connecting to themselves and to the earth.
And these are people like who are in treatment of some sort?
Yes, mental health and addiction recovery. Yeah,
Yes.
mostly adolescents. So
Yeah.
really reaching people at the point where they're making big shifts in their identity and their orientation to their future. So that feels really yummy. I could speak for hours and hours and hours on that. And then the third arm is Attunement Agency, my coaching business, and where I share my relational herbalism course.
What is relational herbalism? What does that mean?
I was interested in herbalism, but I was not interested in learning all the things. So I found a teacher who would share with me the most simple and potent herbalism practices that I could integrate into my own life. And so now I teach other people about the wise woman tradition of herbalism, which is an invisible tradition that's been woven throughout centuries. where we see the plants growing outside of our doors as allies. And perhaps breathing with plantain or dandelion is the medicine of the day, and having that pause and that understanding of our dance of reciprocity. Or it could be, as I taught earlier this morning, preparing a plantain oil and a salve and learning how to bring the plants into our homes, into our bodies, and to start your home apothecary. So it's so much
Ooh.
fun to me. Yeah.
I like the way you're describing that as so simple, because that's the kind of person I am, is like, I don't want all the details, but like a more simple kind of like actionable way of being more intimate with the earth. That sounds very appealing. So I'm sure that your clients out there are just like loving up what you're serving. I'm positive of it.
Yes, we have such a diverse group. We have medical doctor, people who are studying more chemistry related herbalism and who are really interested in getting in touch with the somatic approach to relating to plants.
Mm,
So it's a
cool.
bit different, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love it. So y'all, Nicole and I have been working together in actually a number of different containers in my business coaching, my success coaching, and leadership programs for the better part of a year. And I'll just tell you quickly that Nicole kind of came into my world like via Facebook. I don't even know how you found me, Nicole, but like we started chatting a little bit. Nicole ended up purchasing a digital course of mine, the Thriving Studio Owner 12-week program, which I used to run live, but Nicole purchased it as a digital program and kind of took herself through that to support her yoga studio. And then she stepped a little deeper. She came into my 2-week private mentorship last summer and pretty quickly decided to jump into a mastermind container. And so spent 6 months in one of my masterminds. And I guess what I want to start with, Nicole, is like before we started working together, you told me that you had a really hard time delegating. And you have like teams, you have like big teams that you work with, but you had a really hard time delegating, and in particular, having boundaries around work versus family time or alone time. Can you paint the picture a little bit of what that was like?
Yes, well, with the yoga studio and our conscious agency, we're providing services most of the day, 12 hours a day. There's maybe a dozen services that we're providing. So that's multiple facilities that I was taking responsibility for. As you said, I'm a natural leader. It's natural for me to take responsibility. So I was being pinged at all hours of the day about the thermostat, or adding a client to a roster, or deeper things that really were my piece to address. Like, I had this conversation with a client and I didn't know what to do, so can you give me some feedback? And to tease through the tasks that were actually important for me to empower my team to do is, I mean, it's been a process, and it's an ongoing process, because when I feel like I've got the systems or the boundaries set, I think the limiting belief that I've had to overcome is that I'll be done. Yeah, and that because we're just always growing and evolving. So, what I need to focus on in order to delegate is to make sure that I have the capacity to pause and to say, that's something to submit a ticket to facilities for. Do you need the link? Rather than, automatically just taking it on myself and
Yeah,
to
trying
have
to
the
solve it in the moment, right? Which
yeah,
that process is, it's tricky because you could solve it in the moment. You have the information in your head. But yeah, I think that is a part of learning how to delegate, is like, oh, we're not having that conversation right now. Put it here or add it to our team meeting agenda. So, and that starts to create a little bit of structure around when you're available to have the conversation, which when you're a small business owner is everything,
it's
right?
everything.
Yeah, because otherwise you're just answering questions, putting out fires all day long. And
All day
that's,
long.
when I say small business owner, like I'm talking about even 7-figure plus business owners have the same challenge, because a lot of them, just like us, like started from the ground up and we're doing everything at first. And that's a process of learning how to like slowly work yourself out of that, what we call the altitude of doer or the altitude of manager, and actually become a leader and a CEO. So my question to you is, like, a lot of people who first come to work with me actually don't relate to that title of CEO. In fact, I'm
Mm.
actively repulsed by it. And I'm curious, like, what is your newfound definition of an embodied CEO? Like, what does that word mean to you now?
It means that I check in with my body before I do anything in order to understand which piece is really mine and where an intelligent system or just a simple task delegation and is due, so I can focus on cultivating the business rather than only doing the deliverables or the day-to-day poking that the business needs. So really being having the confidence in myself and the trust in myself to be able to take that millisecond pause and say, okay, this direction is what keeps me in my lane and establishes my team in their lane in whatever capacity they need to learn about or be reminded of. Yeah.
Right. And I think that is part of it, is that like a lot of us who are so exhausted, quite frankly, after years of growing a business from the ground up, and it's just like hours and so much brain power. I think it is true that a lot of us have a fantasy really that delegating, and we were just talking about this before we went live, like delegating is simply saying something once and then shutting it off your list and it's done.
Right.
And the truth is that delegating and actually like running a team like a well-oiled machine requires taking the time to be relational with your team, taking the time to really become a mentor to them, to be there to answer their questions and to help them problem solve and find new solutions instead of you always coming in and saying, well, this is how we're going to do it. So how is that going? Do you feel like you're finding your feet with that part?
I do feel like I'm finding what works for me, right? And to understand I kind of take it week by week, like the weekly expectations that I could have for one team member and really understand how to communicate that to the best of my ability. And then what is really the most important thing that I've noticed is that if I'm angry, it simply means that I don't feel heard and that it is time to figure out how to speak it more plainly or record it or create a system so it's not something that continues to come up. Um,
Yes.
and to understand that my emotions are like, if it's later in the day, I should just go to bed. I think I've heard you say that before, but
Right. You're
but
not
that
process.
there are times where my anger or my frustration it's my aha moment of
Mm.
like I really need to take the time with this piece because it's going to come back if I don't address the underlying reason that something's not working well.
You're reminding me of something. One of my original business mentors, who was a business owner I used to work for, Tom McCook, who's an amazing Pilates master educator. He told me that, like at the very beginning of opening up my studio business, is like, Kiki, when you solve a problem, don't just put a band-aid on it, solve it forever. And I was like, yes.
And so that's a double-edged sword for me. Honestly, I have to go to my tutor. I sometimes will wait a little too long to solve something because I want to have the ultimate solution.
Hmm.
And so like
Yeah.
that's been an interesting temperance for me, is to understand when it's time to take the next step for the next system available and to know that a better system might arise instead of waiting until I have the ultimate holy grail. A spreadsheet to track something is better than like the most perfect spreadsheet, and that I can always adjust as I go. And yeah, that's part of the limitation I think I've had of thinking that something could, once I solve it once, it'll be done.
I like that though, like, because that is true. That is my attitude towards it, is like, well, let's try this. And like, it's at least like a 1 degree upgrade. And I just assume that like, of course we'll figure out something else in like 6 months. It'll be like another 1 degree upgrade. But I love that subtle shift of like not
Yeah.
having to be perfect to be a proper solution, just like, okay, here's the initial solution. Let's try this. Yeah, that's great. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so you had so many wins while we were working together. I remember in December, November, you had like one of your biggest sales months ever, and you drastically like changed your schedule, where you have
Oh
like
yeah.
so much more time. So can you tell us like what is your current schedule like? I know you're running three businesses. You have a kid who
Yeah.
requires a ton of your time. You have a marriage, a relationship,
Yes.
social life. Like you just told me you're going to a friend's house tonight. So like, what is your work schedule like? Just give us a view into that. And how is it different than it was before?
Well, I was waking up most days of the week and having to go offer yoga groups. And for a time, I thought that was my ideal, was to wake up and teach at 8:30 because that's when I felt the most fresh. And then I realized that that's the time I'm most fresh for my business. And I had teachers who were really asking for that work. So it was easy. It was natural for me to have other people step in. So that was the first step, was that I started to slowly peel off the classes that were first thing in the
Mhm.
morning that other people would be so jazzed to teach. Win, win, win. That's what we're after. And so I started having Monday as my CEO day. And so what I like to do is, after my husband cooks me breakfast and I have lots of coffee and maybe time outside when the weather permits, I will sit down at my desk and I'll start to do the thing that feels like is coming through first. And then when I start to hit the point of I need a break, um, I'll put my workout on for 30 minutes and have my little weights and dance and have my notebook next to me so I can jot any awesome things that come to my mind. And then I'll get on for like maybe another hour or two. And then that pretty much wraps up the computer time, which, I've been on a laptop working since since like 2005, and there was something about just like sitting at the laptop that just made me feel like I was working and free. And then like it's been a mindset shift like over a number of years, that just like sitting at the computer and doing things doesn't necessarily mean that I'm doing productive work or impactful work. So I make that list. I say these are the 3 or 4 things that I'm going to get done, and then I'm turning the computer off. I will go for a walk, have lunch, be with often I'm having my meetings with my team in the woods. We're walking together. And then I have a couple classes in the evening that I teach on like Monday and Wednesday. And that
Mhm.
just gives me a chance to stay in touch with my community and to be in the awesome vibes that we've created since
Mhm.
we were really able to leave survival mode as a studio, and to land in a place where it's sustainable and new people are coming, and it feels really good to be in there.
Oh, what a relief. What a relief. Oh
Feel
my God.
it. Like,
Yeah. I can
yeah,
feel it when you're talking about it too. And I remember those days too, where it just didn't feel like this uphill battle, of kind of like, what's going to happen? Is this even going to work? Where it became like, oh, this is working actually.
it's working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
And so I feel now that in terms of deliverables, I'm only teaching what I want to teach, which is incredible. I'm not substituting. I'm not covering vacation. I felt for a time that I couldn't hire a team because I couldn't afford to lose the work per class.
Right.
And then that was putting me in a position to overwork and then to not get into the actual business needs that were going to create more sustained revenue, that were going to create more opportunities to hire more people. So
Exactly.
getting off of that wheel and having more of a staff, I mean, everyone is saying that they're happier. And it's nice to have more camaraderie, and I feel so grateful for the jobs that we've created. It's Yeah, like it brings tears behind my eyes, because when I started teaching yoga and I thought that it was something that could become my livelihood, like many people, I quickly learned that it was going to be a lot more challenging than just having a better per hour right rate. Um, and I'm the type of person that I don't just want it for me. Like I if I'm gonna do it, I want it to extend out, and to be able to provide that for the teachers under these businesses is like it's honestly mind-blowing to be able to see people buy their dream car or have their baby, and for them to have maternity leave and to be taken care of is, yeah, it
Oh my
it
God, I love
yeah.
that. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that is true, is that like, my focus in coaching business owners and founders and CEOs is on their life and on their quality of life, as a visionary, as a leader, but as a whole person too, as a person who has a spiritual life and an inner life and emotions and maybe a family or partners. But I feel like what we don't talk about is that as we get more aligned with what we want for our lives, it absolutely ripples out to our teams, to our clients, to our customers. And I love that. I love that impact, right? Of being a leader, is that like you can actually help people have jobs that support their families and support their livelihoods, but also are like surprisingly amazing jobs, like
Yeah, surprisingly amazing.
jobs
Yeah.
are shitty. And like we get to create these environments where they're not at all shitty. They're really exceptional work environments. Yeah. That's so cool. Awesome. So I got one more question for you. When shit hits the fan, as sometimes when you're, building free businesses as you are doing, um, what rituals or routines, like how do you sort of get your energy right, where you get in a
Mm.
place where you can actually see straight and be able to make decisions and take action? Because all y'all who are business owners know that like that's really what our job is is
Yeah.
to make decisions and take action pretty much all day long. So like what do you do internally to kind of get yourself clear in that moment?
It's basically a trifecta of no technology, excellent meals, and time barefoot outside.
All right.
So just to be and typically I'm alone. It may be girlfriend's time or, time with my child, people who can help me return to the wonder, right? And like, right, this is what I'm working for in the first place, right? So I try to go back to the internal sensation of why I started, like the inner freedom. So whatever it takes to get to that inner freedom. And if I'm particularly tensed, I get a massage,
Right.
but usually enough time without my phone and computer
Right. It's like
is a great
heavy
start.
boundary, heavy self-care. Like,
Well,
yeah,
it's hard to think. It was hard for me at first to think, okay, I'm going to create a solution by doing nothing, right? Because on the outside, that kind of looks like doing nothing.
right.
That's absolutely, like, I've learned that I can trust my brain to come up with something far better than my thinking mind can even orient and strategize. And typically when I'm really focused on a problem, that's when the people pleasing, the fawn response, the freeze, those things start to move into my nervous system and
Mhm.
really shut me down from being able to establish what's best for the business and ultimately best for me and my family,
Right.
right? And then I can truly and authentically pass that on to my clients or my team. So it's really combing through landing and
Yeah, with a well-resourced nervous system. I mean, that's what I'm hearing you say, is that like for you, the answer to, being able to navigate sometimes the feeling of a real roller coaster,
yeah,
in growing a business, is a well-resourced, organism, really, whole being
absolutely.
organism, And I love that piece that you just pulled out, because I think that's true, that a lot of us have a story that if we do nothing, i.e., take a walk in nature, sit down and eat a meal, unplug from our computer, like it's not worthwhile or it's not valuable or it's not going to help. And when in reality, that is the medicine. That is the
Yeah.
medicine for our business, for our income, for our teams, for things to be smooth and not fucking chaos every day.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's so big. Thank you for sharing that. Beautiful.
Well,
Well,
it's big.
I know it's so big. Woo! Okay, y'all. Well, I want you to know that like Nicole is the perfect embodiment of what I do with my clients in my programs. And I was just telling Nicole before we got on that I have sort of figured out a way to talk about this thing that I taught Nicole, and I teach all my people in my masterminds and my private coaching, which I'm now calling the time magician method. And so I'm going to tell you the method. It's a 5-part method right now in the next like 3 seconds. And Nicole, you're every single thing I'm going to say, you're going to be like, yep. Yeah. So it's the 5-part time magician method. It's so beautiful. It's so amazing because it's not like you learn this thing and then it's done. These are like practices. These are things to learn, integrate, and really embody so that you can actually like uptake the sweetness of the decisions you've made, of the life, and continue to shape it and sculpt it in a way that feels most aligned for you. So it's magic, MAGIC. M is for morning rituals. This is about changing your schedule, just like Nicole talked about a few minutes ago, to prioritize slow mornings, which approximately 100% of my clients want, I've discovered recently. So that you can take the time for your spiritual practice or your body needs or whatever, your family needs, and really, really access your intuition before you even start your to-do list so that you can maybe do the one thing that your intuition tells you, oh, that's the thing to drive my goals forward. So that's M. A is for aligned action. Yeah, this is what we like to call the radical discipline of intuition or alignment. And it's about crafting your business and really your whole life, because it really alignment starts to spread out into your whole life, in entirely based on how you want it, on what your unique preferences are for how you want to do this, how this is going to best support you, which ultimately will best support everyone, your family, your team, your clients, your customers. G is for glowing up your abundance belief systems. How much did we work on this, Nicole? Like so much.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it's about really, really, truly clearing lack and scarcity, which will come up with every bigger goal that you have. Like another layer will come up of like why you can't have that, why it's too much, why that's not even possible. And so it's really about choosing to cultivate an abundance mindset. And that is really challenging stuff, especially if you have a lot of evidence or history that that's not how life is. That's not, and that history, which is oftentimes very traumatic for so many people. And you and I are white women, very privileged. Like it's even more so for people of color, for immigrants, for people who don't have the privileges we have. But even so, all of us deal with lack and scarcity on some level or another. And so it really is a thing to train your brain to focus on possibility, to focus on what do you want instead of, well, like maybe I could get that. That's reasonable, So that's the G. The I in magic is increase your capacity to receive. Ooh. And for those of us who, people who come to me are often very much like givers and really want to be of service to the world in such big ways. And that also means shadow side, that we're people pleasers, and that we often don't have many boundaries, or it's scary for us to set clear boundaries. And so increasing your capacity to receive is not just about receiving more money, which is part of it, but it's also about receiving more support. It's about receiving more spaciousness in your calendar, which is kind of spooky, when you've been working so hard and attached to your computer so deeply. So yeah, increasing your capacity to receive, it is absolutely a skill to cultivate financially and otherwise. And then C is for creating meaningful time. So this is about actually like being with your presence in what you are doing and creating some boundaries around the different parts of your life so that you can actually be present to it. So like if you are with your son hanging out, you actually like can turn off your phone for 2 hours. Like who knew? Or, like you can say to, your partner or your roommate, you know what, I actually need a little bit of alone time today. Do you think that y'all could clear out for like 3 hours today so I could just be with myself and with my own thoughts? And so it's about meaningful time. And that is where the feeling of time abundance, I think, really comes through when we actually bring our presence to like our work time. Like, oh, now I'm doing a market. Let me focus on this and not get interrupted 85 times, So yeah, can you tell us about anything you want to add, anything you want to say about that, hearing about the time magician method?
Well, I think to me, it goes back to being well resourced, because when you are getting things coming through all of the time, it's very easy to want to address them instead of saying, I can take that call tomorrow at 10 a.m. I mean, I could have taken a call that moment, but I was just getting done with my day. And I was like, so starting to really understand that a lot of the need to take care of it now is exactly the thing it was the exact thing holding me back from being able to do higher impact work. So needing to take the pause, make the choice, and that's something I instill in my team. We're not doing hourly work at this point. We're doing work that needs to be done, and it's high impact work. And so teaching other people that if you sit down for an hour, this is possible to achieve, and then you can get off of your computer and have a nice lunch, and gifting that to the people that I work with, because it is, culturally, we sit at a desk for 8 hours a day, right? So we all have a piece of that to like pull out and say, actually, that isn't necessarily the most efficient. And, we're one of the first generations to have this access to technology and to be able to work smarter.
Yes.
So it's time.
Yeah. And I think what you're talking about is like, it's really about starting to, unhook yourself from all the internalized capitalism and urgency, that everything's so fucking urgent, and what we're talking about is growing a business sustainably and creating work environments for our teams and even for our clients and customers where it's sustainable. The yoga practice is sustainable. Like for me, what I teach my people is how to create sustainability in their business. And what you're teaching in your herbalism, it's about sustainability. And like, no, it's not as sexy as like the fastest way to grow a business, the fastest way to, mend an illness. And yet for you and I, it's extremely sexy, like the truth is it's so rich.
Yeah.
When you have the urgency and you actually just bring a heightened presence to what you're doing and really bring all your magic and spiritual gifts to what you're doing. That's where it all becomes so different.
Yes. And we initially cleared out so much of the imposter syndrome, who am I to do this or to have this? And yeah, Kiki, that's something that you can sniff out a mile away.
Yes, I know. Thank you for reflecting that. Thank you. Yes, I know. I can hear it when my clients start doing that stuff. Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of my jobs is to like point out, hey, are we talking about something that's a pattern here?
Yeah.
And actually give them the not hard coaching, but just like gentle but relational but fierce. That's what I call my personality as a coach. Relational yet very fierce. So y'all, I want you to know that I have actually 3 different ways you can do this work with me right now, which I'm so super duper jazzed about. I just bundled together 3 of my upcoming live programs. One is called the Time Magician Method, and we're going to break it down over 5 days. I'll go into each of those 5 parts of the Time Magician Method. And then we'll have a bonus group coaching call, which I normally only reserve for my masterminders who pay upwards of like $3,000 to $5,000 a month to get access to those calls. So the magic bundle is $500 a month times 4 or $1,888 for pay in full. And I'll put the links to get that in the comments below. We start on June 13th. So that's starting in just like about 10 days. And then I also have my 2-week Scale with Ease private mentorship, which is pretty much the same mentorship that Nicole did. I just changed the title and buffed it up a little bit. And right now, if you enroll in Scale with Ease in the next 10 days, you'll also get the Time Magician Method, which is like $1,500 plus course as a bonus, which is so super cool. And then the third way you can work with me is in my private mentorship. And these are my like highest level one-on-one mentor mentee relationships. We meet twice a week for twice a month for private Voxer coaching. So we're really in touch via text or voice clip like most days of the week about what's going on and what are the tiny little 1-degree upgrades that you can make that make all the difference. And so I have a payment plan options for that. It's for 12 months, it's $6,250 a month. And of course, I have a pay in full savings as well. So you can message me for the application if you're interested in either of those two private offerings, or click the links below and come on in on the Magic Bundle. Thank you, Nicole, for being here. I love you so much.
I love you so much too. Thank you so.
Yeah, and I'm wishing you a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. I love your shirt. It's so cute.
Have fun. Yeah.
Thanks for joining today. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.